Yeah, you can start.
So, shall we start?
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, one and all. And I just welcome Professor and Head Student Support and Dr. Dharmendra Kumar, who is a professor and head examinations, for giving us an opportunity.
The audio is not clear.
Audio is not clear?
Yeah, there's an intermittent disturbance in the audio, I think. Is my audio clear?
Hello.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
am I clear, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible, ma'am. It's clear.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
good.
then there is a disturbance at your end because intermittently I could see there is a lag there
IT, please.
in your voice, right?
Navin sir, I think your bandwidth is low. Hello, Navin sir.
Yes.
I think your internet connection is speed
Yes.
low.
Yeah. Nothing audible.
Navin sir, your bandwidth is low.
Okay.
Hello. Sir, can you connect from other internet?
I think I'm through lane right now. I think that's the best. Available at my end. The other is then weaker net bandwidth.
Shall we go on, sir?
Right. So I think should I rejoin?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be better, sir. I think so.
You can go on, right, but yours is not clear to me. If mine is
Sir,
clear, then it's okay. I can deliberate.
Your voice is clear. We can hear
Your
you.
voice is clear, sir.
Absolutely fine, right? So you can go ahead, but your sound, your voice is not very. It's intermittently with this certain disturbance there, right? So you can go ahead with your introduction. I'm here just to let me.
Right, sir. Yeah, ma'am. Continue.
Okay, so good afternoon, one and all.
know
And
when to start. Okay.
Sure, sir. Sure. Assistant Professor and Head Student Support, and Dr. Dharmendra Kumar, who is Professor and Head Examinations, to give us an opportunity for this workshop, research project writing and data analysis. And today we are holding the workshop on research design and approach, qualitative and quantitative. And we are having a very special guest of honor, Professor Dr. Navin Shrivastava from Birla Institute of Management. Here's a brief, though he's a well-known face in the field of education. But yes, here's a brief about him. Dr. Navin Srivastava is head OVHR of management practices at Birla Institute of Management Technology. He was formerly associated with University of Indore and Amity University, India. He holds an MBA and LLM from University of Indore and a PhD in management from University of Udaipur, India. His doctoral work is in the area of effectiveness, spirituality at work, and building value driven organizations. He's having more than 18 years of experience in management, teaching, and training. He has published and reviewed papers in national and international journals. He has been awarded for his distinguished services by Birla Institute of Management Technology, India. He has conducted management development programs at government and non government organizations, including leading PSUs, armed forces, postal departments, etc. His academic journey has been very enriching in terms of its versatile exposures and continuous learning opportunities. As a professor of business management, his endeavor has been to educate and enable students and management professionals to evolve as a better human being. As a behavioral trainer, He has facilitated professionals to acquire right behavioral as well as technical competencies to evolve as responsible managers. His academic credentials, with a blend of management and legal competencies, have facilitated learners to acquire ethical business sense to drive organizations effectively in this dynamic business environment. Professor Dr. Navin, you are welcome on board, sir. Over to you, sir. So we would like you to take over the session on research design and approach, qualitative and quantitative data. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Priya, and thank you very much, Dr. Ruhi, and the team members. I could see Professor Dharmendra there, right? Session on the research methods and the approaches that are prevalently accepted and are being talked about in the academic fraternity, right? I just thought of what's my audience. And what is the expectation of deeper into this particular question? I felt that primarily the research work, right? So either that research can be associated with their doctoral which they might pursuing, right? The academic fraternity who are interested in publishing themselves in leading reputed journals just like FT50, ABDC, and leading now, and the kind of intermittent issues that we are facing. Views and your attempts through the chat box, and that is where I'm going to reflect upon those concerns that you have
Hello, Navin
raised
sir.
and answers that you have given. Right. So with this, I'm
Hello,
going to
Navin
now
sir.
say the thumbs up.
Your voice
Yeah.
is breaking, sir. Can you stop your video? We can hear you clearly because I think some bandwidth problem from you, sir.
I
Can
think
you,
I cannot hear you.
sir? Can you stop your video, sir?
Voice is lost. I stop
Your internet connection is poor.
and just go to the presentation mode for the better bandwidth. If that
Yes,
okay.
sir. And
Yeah, sir.
switch
But
off your video, sir.
And sir, switch off your video, sir.
yeah, I think that is what I'm suggesting. I've now switched off my video. Now is it fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's fine.
Now it's fine, right? So what I'm going
So you can share your screen.
to do is I'm going to now share the slides. Whatever I've said, I agree, and Dr. Priya and the other participants, I was audible. And
Yes, yes.
in one line, I would like to say thank you so much for this
Welcome, sir.
invitation and the support. Just give me a thumb. Okay. Okay, all of you, can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Slides are visible.
Okay, right. So session is on qualitative and the quantitative research, and this workshop is designed to equip you with the quality research project writing and data analysis. My coordinates have already been shared with you with my the expert that we have my session, which will delve deeper into these questions. The first is, what do we understand from the term research? What does research stands for all of us? What are the attributes of interesting research? And that's a question which we all are delving deeper through, either by virtue of being a research scholar or being a faculty or being a writer or project is make my research writings. The third important aspect that this particular session has, what is a research design? Followed by that, we are going to also talk about what are the important aspects of inductive and deductive methods of research. And then we have one researches. I've just put a question because of research by focusing on research problems and research questions, and which I'm going to refer to as RQs. And finally, what are the research answers based on the theories that we are looking forward for? So let's see the basic term research. What do we understand from this term research? Research is the systematic or interested in. Now, when we see this particular definition, the first thing in our mind is, what is this systematic process? And is this systematic process really going to help us to understand the body of knowledge and add value to the body of knowledge? The whole journey practitioner in a form of a high quality research that he undergoes with is going to come in the subject of. Having said that, how can we term research? Research is a cyclical process. It is an ongoing process, right? Which involves steps that begins with identifying the problem. Now that's the point which I'm going to reflect upon with much more deeper have undertaken. Further, it then consists of reviewing the literature. That's where we use the term called literature review or the LRs, and specifying a purpose for the study, right? Why we are doing this particular research, that's also a very important question that we have in our mind when we do a research. And it also helps us in forming an information of the information. So there are a couple of information which is available, in which direction these information is leading us to, and in ahead. So information of the information. So researchers help us to understand and infer the available information and predict the unfolding of the future. This process further culminates in a report disseminated to the audience that is evaluated and used in the educational community. Right. When I write educational community, I'm not resignation, because ultimately the epistemological understanding of knowledge says that it's the understanding of the subject, which is what everybody is looking for, the academia as well as the practicing world. And that That's how we define the term research, useful for the practitioners as well as the academicians. Having said that, this is one for what's the goal of our research. Right? And everybody, those who are in this particular session, I would just request you to please keep a notebook and just write down your questions in that notebook so that I can reflect upon it in due course of time. Now, when I raise this particular question, what's the goal of our research? The answer comes out to be either to build stories, or why are we working on information we have already gathered? Either you want to build a story. What is a story? It starts with a theme and it reflects upon it, what you term it as artists, individuals who are the parts of that play, and then you further culminate it into a form of a song. So when we talk about a quality research should also have a storyline. What are we talking about? Where are we trying to take our understanding to? Right? What is this research? Let's say I take an example of just like how to measure the sides of a triangle, how to measure the longest abstractions. Theories are generalized disclosure in the form of outcomes. It is also simplified as explanations of reality, right? So theories also talk about that, okay, construct that we have. Theories present a new explanation or a new perspective. So Earth revolves around the sun, and a belief did not give us a theory about where does the sun rises, right? So how did we that the sun rises on east is because we firstly determined the direction of the world. And now when I say that, then the theory evolves. That the revolves around the sun, and because it's also that also gives the concept of the day and night, and the revolution gives us the concept of the year that we have. Extending, modifying, and combining theories to generate new insights about the problem. So we add on and delve deeper into it. Okay, fine. Now this is what it is talking about. This particular concept tells us that there is understanding which is going to help us to further delve deeper into the researchable question that we have raised. So comes the importance of scientific research. The eternal cycle of scientific research delves into the concept related to theory and data, or theory and data. And we bifurcate it into or divide it into two types of researches. One is known as the inductive research, and the other is known as, which talks about building theories from the data. So there is a data which is available. There is a number and a set of numbers, and that data helps us to reflect upon and reach up to a theory, right? So inductive research finally leads to a formulation of a theory. Whereas when we talk about theories using the data, right? So deductive researches are researches where we do those kind of descriptive research where we collect the data, we do the review of literature, we find out the gaps, and we try to test the outcomes in the form of the hypothesized question that we have. This scientific research is the continuous iteration between the theory, that is abstraction, and the data, that is part of our session. The understanding should be able to make out from part of my session is that theory and data are interconnected. How are they interconnected? Either by the inductive or by the deductive framework. If it's an inductive framework, we use the theories to form and from the data that which are available, right? And when we talk about the deductive research, we extend the available theories with the help of data and come up with a newer understanding, delving deeper into or investigating. Let's understand the types of reasoning by Fisher in his work in 2000. So when we talk about deductive researches or the method, here we have the rules or the laws, which are the theories that we have. We build up a case, that means we build up certain constructables which are available with us, and we try to establish a relationship, and then we see and collate it in the form of, if you could see my search, there's going to be a rule frame a case, and this case will be further investigated through the to reveal using results and observations. That's the deductive form of research. Whereas when we move to the inductive form of research and the reasoning behind it, we'll see that we have already reviewed the literature, and then we have found an arbitrary one. Interpretation is a part and parcel of qualitative business research, and statistical analysis is a part and parcel of the quantitative business research methods. Through a comparative disclosure, we can, through a comparative study, we can find out with certain research does it stand with respect to quantitative research. So if I talk about the common purpose for a qualitative research, it discovers an idea used in exploratory research with it, right? So discovery is an objective, then qualitative research is a better proposition. Through the theories that you have read through your review of literature, then it's good to have, and that comes under the quantitative research. The second important research aspect to distinguish between qualitative research and quantitative research is the approaches. So when we talk about the approach under the qualitative research, this is more observational and interpretative. Whereas when we talk about quantitative quantitative as pro, that means they have to be tested with respect to the quants, that is the numerals which are involved into the researchable question that you have framed, hypothesis that you have. The third important research aspect is data collection approach. Now, under the data focuses on the unstructured data, and it's a free flow of form which takes place because you want the respondents here. In the quantitative, it's more structured and categories are well defined and provided to the respondents, and those categories are further analyzed through the statistical. Qualitative research, a researcher is intimately involved in the research. Results are subjective. As an observer, that means the respondents, and results are very objective. Right? There's biasness as far as when we talk about quantitative research, whereas it may happen, it also believes in the interpretation of text. The third or the fourth distinguishes qualitative and quantitative research is the sampling. So qualitative researches are primarily based on small samples with often in natural settings. How they are viewpoint and perception. And when we talk about quantitative research, these are large samples to produce generalizable research results that apply to other situations, right? So when we talk about statistical tool, where we have to have minimum of 30, minimum of 100, and minimum using and the sampling size that you want to select for doing a particular research based on the universe that you are trying to study. The last is most often used exploratory research design in the qualitative research method, as research design in the quantitative research. Now, interesting, one of the most interesting aspect of a researcher's journey is getting entangled with the type 1 and the type 2 errors. So these type 1 and the type 2 errors, I have a couple of questions. I'm going to take it one by one. So I've got certain questions of Professor Neha Singh, I think. I'm going to come back to those experimental design part at a, okay. So when we talk about type 1 and type 2 errors, a very old fable which we used to hear from our grannies and from our uh, guardians and our senior members of the family, where they used to tell us a story about a liar shepherd and his false cry for a wolf. We used his or her input to error. I'm waiting for your answers. Was it type 1 in a type 2 error? Now you will recall, right? So in the interest of the lecture, I'm just going forward with the explanation. Now this is a very interesting story, right? It talks about him, and after knowing those cry, they were absolutely disheartened by the act of the boy. As such, right? Now, this is what is the next time when the boy actually sees a wolf, he makes a call, and when none of them they turn up, that came out to be a disastrous phase of situation type 2 error, right? So never confuse type 1 and type 2 errors again. Just remember that the boy who cried wolf caused both type 1 and the type 2 errors in that order. First, everyone believed there was a wolf when there wasn't a wolf there. So this is what selecting a false null hypothesis. Next, they build hypothesis. That's what is the now. Use your chat box to comment on this example so that I'll be able to be assured of that the ideas are getting seeped in very well. All of you. The type 1 and the type 2 error example. Please use the chat box.
All the participants kindly use the chat box and you can write about type 1 and type 2 errors.
Okay, I got a couple of answers, right? So type 2, write about type 1 and type 2 errors. And have you been able to, my idea is, have you been able to understand, right? The first call of the boy was a type 1 error, right? Accepting the false null hypothesis. And the second is type 2 error is rejecting the true null hypothesis. Right? You have done that. I'm just moving forward with, to the interest of time. And I'll take up your finish of my presentation. Another question which is going to be there. Everybody to please use the chat box for the questions that I'm asking. Right. Okay. Right. So forward to some exploratory and confirmatory research aspects. So under qualitative data, data that are not characterized by numbers, but rather are textual, visual, or oral are primarily falling under the qualitative researches. It focuses on stories, visual portrayals, meaningful captions, and other expressive descriptions. Whereas in quantitative data, it represents phenomena by assigning numbers and meaningful, and that's where the scales that you select for appropriate configuration between the three methods of research. We'll get into the details of it, and then you'll be able to understand that exploratory helps you to and which is connecting descriptive. Those theories are giving the descriptive researchers a food for thought to investigate with the research design that he has selected of data collection in the form of numbers, and then prepare up that and find out findings. So you vet on the theories based on the sectors that you have selected or the samples that you have collected from a particular set of universe. Now this finding further used by the causal researchers who actually see the cause and effect. Fourth, the research is done through the descriptive methods has actually weighted the cause and the effects are absolutely in alignment with the findings of the theories which are already laid down there, right? Now they're giving insights to the explorer. Just take note of my cursor. If you can see that, right? Now this is where the causal researchers and the findings give insights to the exploratory researchers to rephrase and reframe that you have. The system of understanding has changed, and so now the go through a change, either transformatory or transitory change, right? A the theories that we have developed. Then we'll go deeper into the exploratory research. What is the objective of exploratory research? It provides insights and understanding of the subject. What's the characteristics? The characteristics primarily is the information needed is defined loosely. Research process is flexible and unstructured, and sample is small because you are delving in a widely open environment and trying to find out and figure out what is the direction of population or the sample or the sampling method through which you have collected those. It may be relevant for a particular time, it may not be relevant for the other time. So during the COVID, if you collected some, has now become from pandemic, it has now become an endemic. That's our understanding that we've developed during the 2 years of COVID and during the second end. I'm assuming, keeping my fingers, when the COVID is out of our environment, it's only in an endemic phase. So we say that those are exploratory and it is only tentative. Outcome generally followed by further exploratory or conclusive research. So when you do an exploratory research, it has to be further substantiated research. The second is a descriptive research. The object the market is only concerned with the people who are researching in the marketing field. Market our working area, the field of our study, right? The characteristics primarily includes information needed is largely defined because it's descriptive research. You have a theory well set, and then you decide on a structured tool to investigate in the form of a questionnaire and a research and a survey tool. Research process is formal and structured, and sample is large. Reflect upon the population's movement. Where does the population is directing us to? And findings are primarily normally reads the sentiments of sampling. The outcomes are findings are used as input of decision organizational study, marketing, research. They go for data collection. Why do they go for data collection? Because they want to overcome the time neutrality of the facts concerned, right? That means is it contextually relevant or not? And if it is not, then those data which are collected may not be relevant in the present context. So all data collected on the risk of COVID may not be that relevant as we have seen and gone through this pandemic as such. And that's where a quantitative research decision-making actions there. Then comes the causal determine cause and shift. Characteristics are information needed is clearly defined, research process is formal and large, it is again conclusive, and findings are used as inputs of decision making. What's going to be the outcome? So cause and effect, right? Thus the effect is going to be relevant for the current population, the set of people for whom we are developing this particular kind of tool. The causal research helps you to give a concrete input which can be helpful for taking core decisions as such, right? Then comes another important perspective, orientation, right? Now, under the qualitative research orientation, we have already seen in the research design, this design by Pilot's work, where graphic case study. Now, when you talk about phenomenology as an orientation of research, qualitative research, it primarily deals and originates in the of the research topic, right? What's the origin of that particular knowledge? Now, that's where you must have heard a word called epistemological sense of research, right? And that's where the phenomenological studies really help you to delve deeper into the subject, which is a researchable, and there is a gap which you have been able to identify with a specific research question, research method. In this, it primarily deals and draws itself of individuals. And when I talk about the ethnographic study, it is to all the researchers and participants, please do note the epistemological and the ontological concepts, epistemology to the origin of knowledge or the philosophy of knowledge, and ontology related to the individual and how and where, which culture he belongs to. That is what is being done in the ethnographic study as such. The third is the grounded theory, which is talking about the sociological evaluation. And it asks and questions and originates its from the sociological theory. How in a society, being an individual, how the different those theories are generalizable. You say that there is a strong grounded background which actually substantiates and in the form of a theory which is termed as a grounded theory. The fourth is a case study based, which is originating in psychology and in business research, right? So psychology, you study a certain set of examples or studies of those patients, it's a psychiatric study, and then you bring out that the best way to handle these type or this category of patients are in this manner, right? And sometimes in the business research, there was a question where somebody asked that how we can do a study in a knowledge industry, in a non-mental study in the engineering fields, right? Where we do the in the fields of chemistry and all these kinds of the virological studies also we do, even in academics we do a lot of studies related to that kind of field, right? Experimental research in business industries are not that relevant, but experimental research have been done by various experts. I tell you, something about robins. We use a book of robins, and robins have been involved into a lot of experimental research. Eric Byrne has done a lot of experimental research in behavioral studies as such, right? Approach further means a philosophical approach to such is inherently subjective and determined by the context in which people live. So the phenomena, it seeks to describe, reflect upon, and interpret experiences. It also relies on story about some experiences. And that's where we connect the phenomena of explained by an individual with the phenomenon which is going to reflect upon the view of the respondents by their stories. And that's what is the phenomenological approach to research. Then the second is hermeneutic, understanding phenomenology that relies on analysis of text, the words that you choose, the respondent uses, through which a person herself. How good is he to reflect upon his own self? Right. It may articulate in a better manner, may score good as far as the hermeneutic style of passage from a respondent's story that is linked with a key theme from within the respondent story or provided by the researcher. Right. So sometimes you would see some of the researchers, they tell you to please write a journey of yours, right? And then they try to decipher what are the places of investigation and what are the places of delight for this particular leader, and where the leader has really been able to expert challenges in the crisis situation, the environment. In building cultures through methods that involve becoming culture response. So a study done in sub-Saharan region or in a South Asian subcontinent region, or if you go to New Zealand and you do a study of Maoris, that is the tribes which is there in New Zealand, you will see an ethnographical diverse nature of perceptual communities that you are referring to for a specific kind of reflection on a particular subject matter. In ethnographical, the researcher becomes in observations. So, couple of discovery channel. Grounded theory primarily talks about presents an inductive investigation in which the researcher poses questions about information provided by respondents into the and what and how it is happening. So, what is happening here and how is it research? And this is something which is going to help you for all researchers and scholars and people who are willing to write research tools which can really help you to investigate in a much more deeper manner. I'm just going to read it out. And this slide I can share with all of you, which is a pick of this particular slide also, so that you can get an understanding of what all it is rather than getting into the details. First is focus group interview, which is primarily done for interviews is to gain considerable insight from each individual conversations are primarily dealing with, and its advantage is to get unique insights from the enthusiasts. It also helps to delve deeper into sensitive. It also helps in expensive, it's less expensive than the depth interviews or focus groups. That's the first one. Semi-structured interviews can be easily interpreted and cost advantages over focus group studies because it incurs you have to go for focus group interviews. While association sentence completions are it can be done. There are tools, there are research again going to reveal and yield actual behavior. Collage is flexible enough to allow those tools where projective expressions are there. It allows to get at sensitive issues. And it's flexible at and having delved deeper into the types of research design, flows of research design, types of qualitative and quantitative researches, difference between qualitative and quantitative researches, inductive researches, and methods and different tools of qualitative researches. Now the question arises, the question is, what's a research question? Right, do you agree with this point or not? Do you agree with this point or not? Please use the chat box to answer. The first step to start in a researcher's journey, it is a research question, right? All of you, are you getting me? Just say yes, absolutely fine. Thank you. How can you find interesting research problem? And there are 4 options. And I would like everybody to exercise their inputs by asking your faculty advisors in the library, by observing practice, and none of the above. And you can suggest any better method that you over to you all for A and D options. Please exercise your options in the chat box. Use the chat box. Okay. I got an answer. I want everybody to participate. Right? Right? Absolutely.
All the participants, please write your answers in the chat box.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, guys are answering. I know. Right. Right. So I could see and Shruti, Narendra, Shruti again. Then we have Akshita and right answers by a couple of them. Have given a perfect answer for you all is observation. Right. So I don't deny right why I'm saying that observation plays a very important role when you want to form research problem. Right. So when we talk about research problem, and what are we talking right now in this particular section of my presentation is how. So for that, we have to firstly identify what's the research problem. Where do we find good research problems? By observing something unexpected, paradoxical, or different. And that's where the third eye of Shiva. And that's where, and you're right when you say interaction with your advisor, guide, chairman, chairperson of your research will really help you. The second thing is of researchers and the research is done prior to your and from standard journals. I just the researchers to please follow the reputed journals for drawing out research papers. I'm just quoting right now. Go for A and A star journals for the subject to start with your talk. What are these ABDCs and what are these FT50 journals, right? ABDC is Australian Business Dean list of journals which are given. If you type ABDC in Google, you will get the list of journals under ABDC. Go for A and A star journals, right? Find out what is the latest, right? Where do we find good research problems? By observing something unexpected, but observations that stations rather than affirm them. Right. So something. When you say one W that you have is what and why, right? That is going to give you and help you to reach to the depth of that interesting research, right? Gaps, anomalies, and I've quoted gaps in quotes because that's very important for a researcher. You start going into because I just want to do my PhD, I want to become a professor, I want to academics, but you don't go and delve deeper into the subject, the topic that you are in future of your career as such, because that is what you're going to talk about. I'm just sharing published in a week, which is an outcome of a doctoral work that I have completed in the subject of employer branding. And I think your paper published in a reputed journal. I don't say that it's very high quality, but it's a reputed and it's a very acceptable category of journal. Right. But then for this journey I have gone, says and gaps are very important. Anomalies are very important. Paradoxes are very important and are unresolved. What is the new finding that you're developing? Work. Right. So again, a research problem, I framed a research question, and then I was able to publish that. What do we need to locate this problem? Have a Shiva in yourself, right? Awareness of even journals, newspapers, always follow the reputed ones. Read Economist, read The Wired, read Times, read journals like as far as the European lists are concerned. Willingness to question everything, right? And that's what that picture is talking about. Have that, have that enlightened mind to question why, what, how, and when, right? The problem of a research problem is trivial solutions, which is where stories help you. Bigger, messier, complex problems may be great, useful insights, right? But as a researcher, always appreciate, have a notebook, have I'll say a screenshot of a problem which you have thought. So when you open your laptop, you will see that, okay, I am investigating right now on this particular, I'm delving on this particular problem. Right. Is it a right problem or not? Keep it for 1 week and you will be whether that's a researchable problem or not, because persistence of vision is really going to help you. Research problems set the tone and direction. Problems that aren't worth studying to read about a particular work done on a particular kind of a problem will not be interesting, right? Which is going to really help you to understand. Then comes what are the ingredients of a good research question? Research questions are questions that we seek to answer about our research problems. Right. So I'm just giving you a couple of questions that we can ask on innovation, social media, digital business failure, which are relevant in the current context and can be further investigated upon. What are the factors that drive innovation in firms? Interesting, right? With startups coming up, this is a very interesting question on innovation because that's going to set the seed for startups, unicorn in the upcoming future. 10 years uh, back, if you go back behind, you're able to see these are a couple of them, many of them are no more existing because the innovations are taking up the market. What innovation strategy? The second question, innovation strategy works best and under what circumstances? And the underlying is what circumstances? That's going to be really of greater interest for the researchers and for the body of knowledge. Why do some innovations succeed and other innovations fail? Does it hold a commercial value? If it doesn't, then it will not be that usable and worthwhile for having an economic value in future. Let's see a couple of questions that we can ask on the social media addiction. Drivers of social media addiction. So much glued to WhatsApp, Instagram, then we have Telegram, then we have Twitter, quite professional one, but still there are a lot of questions which are being there. Those various companies, where various business partners which are planning to do joint venture with another company, they go to the LinkedIn profile and say, is it worthwhile? Does that individual's LinkedIn profile does or not? Right. What intervention strategies can help mitigate, minimize social media addiction? That's concern, especially this is with parental concerns that we have, and the guys are the kids who are below the age of 5, gluing phenomenon practices which are happening with respect to failure rates so high among small businesses, right? And this is what the data can best mitigate small business failures, right? Which intervention will work best under economic upturns, right? So that's the research question. And so what makes a research question interesting? Attributes of interesting research. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Yes. And sometimes counterintuitive, right? It is the obvious. You will always say, obviously, it's a well-known fact. Right. Obvious question. Right. So let's not go into those kind of questions. Right. Search for explanations, not just descriptions. Why? Right. Your impact of research, the question, the research topic, the hypothesis that you frame based on should be for the betterment of the largest segment of the society. And it should be different, right? It should not be obvious. Many don't get into those kind of trivialities of research issues. Be little you when you go in the later half of your research as opposed to the researchers when you want to get yourself published, you will find it difficult because there are work which is available in the research right. How to identify interesting research questions? It requires deep knowledge of the problem domain to see gaps, problems, fields, to understand their everyday problems. And that is where your interesting investigative self and its passion is going to help you to identify very interesting research question. And this says an approximate answer to the right question is worth a good deal. An approximate question. Very interesting line. I would request all of you to use this particular quote. Right? More than an exact please devote 20 seconds on this particular quote so that you will be able to question and what should be the research design and the method that I am following for my answer it in the chat box.
Uh, there are a few questions which our attendees want to ask. May I ask the questions
Yeah,
now?
ma'am.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are a few questions which our attendees wants to ask you.
Yeah, you
Should
are
I ask?
audible. Should I take the Q&A from you?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
So your voice is breaking.
Should I have Dr. Priya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Priya,
Sir, cannot hear you.
how much time do I have?
So we are.
Dr. Priya, can you hear me?
We are running short of time.
Okay.
Should I ask the question, sir? On the behalf of attendees?
So should I take up the Q&A or?
Yeah, sir. You can
teacher?
take up the Q&A. You can take up the Q&A, sir.
I can take up the Q&A, right? So
Yes, sir.
I'll take up. So there's a question by what points one has to keep in mind before. By now, Arushi, you have been able to get this answer, right? So this was a question at 2:38, and now we are at 3:40. So Arushi, you have been able to understand the source is your research question, right? And your observation will give you research, right? And also your expertise on quantitative and qualitative methods, which is really going to help. Is it fine? I'll appreciate if you then by this is by designs, right? Now,
Your voice is breaking.
Yeah. Hello, I've switched off my videos, and that's the best I can do. The three experimental designs are primarily for what kind of research you would like to go, right? So if you talk about a pure or a true experimental design, it's primarily for researchers which have a high degree of on a perceptual based study, right? And then the third form or a pre-research is what are we supposed to do when I'm planning for an experiment. Experimental gives you an insight on experimental or a quasi-experimental work, right? Then I think draw its own constructs from this theory.
Sir, you are not audible.
Right, and probably am I now audible?
Yes.
Am I
yes,
now
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm just taking Dr. Ahmed's question on exploratory research and descriptive research. Exploratory research gives you an help descriptive research, and these constructs are then going to be tested by the quantitative data, right? And that we have between the exploratory that you do, and where I have another question by Amit Kumar. Is this problematic if one aims to research design methods? No, dear, absolutely not, right? But it's the researcher's convenience you have opted for. Before that, what's your research? My dear research, I would really like to advise until unless you don't know what for it is requested for. So your research question sets the ball, and its gap is going
Sir, your voice is breaking.
to really help with quality. I'm going to, I think that's the last question.
Okay, sir, please.
Not our sections are used in qualitative research. However, we want to study a small community spread across. See, small sample in a qualitative research will actually bring forth that you would like to draw from the context that you are trying to investigate at that particular. And that's why now in a qualitative data with tools like R and Python and many other tools like it has now become easier to do text analytics, but then the dictionaries are becoming but dictionaries are also getting published, right? Joey, I hope I've been able to give you a direction to this. Some of the people are doing the qualitative data with the dictionaries, the things that the combination of words that the respondents are using, and its flows and its repetitiveness and on the research. But then here the researcher's biasness is also one of the biggest concerns that we have. A small community study spread can be considered a good qualitative study, but has to be vetted by a quantitative study whether that particular understanding has really taken up by that, but right? Hope I've been able to answer your question. And the last question, I think, no, not project, for the descriptive analysis or data, is it necessary to formulate an hypothesis? Now, there are schools of thought, right? Some people say that hypothesis is necessary. Hypothesis, all researchable questions are not hypothesizable, right? Now, here what I would like to say is when you either moderating, mediating, all these types of relationships, if you want to study, then probably open-ended research design. Right? Don't have an hypothesis, but have a very good research investigable question. Right? What are you planning to investigate? Right? Question she asked, if you want to implement a developmental program has to be implemented, and what should be appropriate sample size? It's called a question. Talk about developmental programs in schools. Experimental designs are more relevant. Such propositions are based on certain theoretical constructs, right? So what do you want to expect? The application of the new education policy, right? And the specific, then you have to ask for and do a qualitative study of the sample and would like experiment on certain specific tools which we use in the primary education or in middle level education as far as an education tool. Is it right? Hope I've been able to answer all your questions, and thank you all participants. It would have been a great learning for all of you and for me too, having such good questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, to sum up the points, Professor Navin has enlightened us on.
From your end, and I really appreciate. And sorry, Dr. Priya.
Yeah, sir. Am I audible, sir?
I'm done.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you so very much, sir. Now, to sum up the points, Professor Navin has enlightened.
From my side, if there are any audio questions.
Sir, am I audible? Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Now, to sum up the point us on the following: that what is the research, what is its goal and importance, and what is the importance of scientific research, and then eternal cycle of scientific research, research design as a blueprint for research, classifications of research designs, uses, approaches, and implications of qualitative research, and he has talked about qualitative and quantitative research. He has talked about contrasting exploratory and confirmatory research. He has talked about appropriate configuration of the different methods in research, like descriptive, exploratory, and causal research. Qualitative research method orientations, phenomenology, ethnography, grounded theory, and case studies. He has talked about a new concept, that what is hermeneutics. That is an approach to understanding phenomenology, which lies on the analysis of text. That is a new thing which is being added, sir. So he has talked about ethnography and research problems, and how to find good research problems so that your research will be more substantial and more, worthy to take forward for other researchers as a base. So, sir, I, Dr. Priya Sachdeva, Associate Professor, would like at Amity School of Communication, would like to thank you on the behalf of Amity School of Communication that for taking this session, and giving us your precious time here. And I would like to thank you for enlightening all of us for deep research design and approaches which will help the faculty and students in their future researches. Thank you so very much, sir, for being here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Pri. Thank all the organizing committee for organizing such an interesting session and a very technological glitches that has happened because of the poor bandwidth. Try my level best.
No worries.